welcome to episode 231 of Board Game Blitz, a podcast about all things board games that you can listen to in less time than it takes to fully appreciate all the details in a single episode of Severance. Board Game Blitz is sponsored by Grey Fox Games. This week, it's the Blitzies! Join us as we recognize our favorite games from 2024 in a number of different categories. And now, here are your hosts,
Ambi
and Crystal. I know everyone is excited to hear about the Blitzy Awards, but first we wanted to thank those of you who stopped us and said hello at Dice Tower West recently. We had a lot of fun, and it's always a delight to get to hang out and play games and meet any of our fans. And so thank you so much if you stopped us and said hello. And Ambi, you told me that you had a really cute encounter during the con.
Yeah, I had a few people come and say like they like the podcast or like the videos. But one time I was with one of my kids because the other kid wasn't feeling well, so he went back to the Airbnb with Toby. But I was with one of them and we were walking, and then someone came up and said like, "Oh, I like you on the podcast," to my kid. He's like, "I like hearing you on the podcast." And my kid was like, "What?" And so I was explaining to him like, "Oh yeah, you know when we were doing the recording, he hears that." He's like, "Oh wow, he does? What?" And then later, like the next day or something, someone came up and said like they liked my videos or something. And then my kid was like, "Then do you see me on them?" Like, "Do you like me on them too?" And the other person's like,
"Oh no,
I'm not sure if I've seen yours, but yeah."
Oh, that is adorable. I love it. I love that you're like, someone specifically came to the kid and was like, "I like you on the podcast." I mean, I've been saying now for years that they could replace us as hosts and everyone would be perfectly happy. So I agree.
But yeah, so Dice Tower West was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Had a blast. It is time for the 2024 Blitzy Awards! Hooray! So, for those of you who have not been listening to the podcast for over a year, every year since the beginning of the podcast, which is now almost 9 years ago, which is mind-boggling to me, we have been doing an annual awards show called the Blitzies, where we give awards out to our favorite games from the prior year in a number of different categories. And those categories are not always the same. We choose them every year, generally based on what games we played and liked. Yeah. It is truly, for us, it is not about kind of a consistency and making sure we have the same category every year. It is about recognizing the games that we played that we loved and getting to shout those games out so other people know about them and can potentially pick them up and play them themselves.
Yeah, and because of that, we also don't repeat games. Like if we have a game that's like our favorite in multiple categories, we just pick one category for that game so that we can show other games that we liked as well.
Yeah, because even if a game technically would fit in multiple categories and was the best in those categories, to us, we want to spread the love about the different board games that we enjoyed from the prior year. And so we want to make sure that we give a broad swath of those games. And so, yes, Ambi will not be putting Bomb Busters in every category.
Spoiler on
Spoiler
I already
alert.
Spoiled it last episode, right?
Yeah, we everyone knew this was coming. So I guess we should go on with the show then. Our first category is Best Family Game. And my pick for this one actually just slipped in under the wire for me. I did not play this one until very recently, in fact, in 2025, but that is Harmonies. I do not know why, but this is one of those games that I thought it was something different than it actually is. I, for whatever reason, had the idea in my head that Harmonies was like an abstract strategy game, and it is not. And it is delightful. It just feels so satisfying to play. I really, really, really like this one. It's a game that struck me instantly when I played it. And so I now recognize why a whole bunch of other people have been talking about it and recognizing it as one of the better games from last year, because it really just is a fun one. And it's approachable, so that is always a plus.
My pick for family game is Wilmot's Warehouse, which I talked about on the podcast before, I think. It's a cooperative memory game based on the video game Wilmot's Warehouse, but it's like different than the video game. There's tiles of different icons and you're making a story with it. and you flip them over and you have to remember everything. I haven't played it with my family, but I think I've heard that it's like good with kids, and it seems like it would be good with kids too. So like I played it with adults and we liked it together, and it seems like it would be good with family, like all making up a story together, because kids are very creative and like making up stories and have good memories when they're making up stories. So yeah, Wilmot's Warehouse I think would be a good family game.
It is quite fun, really. And it is easier to remember things than you think it will be. And yeah, it's a delight. I'm glad I got to play this one after you talked about it on the podcast.
Our next category is kids game. So this differs from family game. Kids game is ones that are like just for kids, and families are ones that you play with family. So like specific kids games is our next category. And I have a few.
I mean, you have kids, so this makes sense.
Firstly, like I think my kids' favorite kids game, based on the number of plays that came out in 2024, is Kids Express. This is a dexterity game with a 3D train made out of cardboard, and you're flicking stuff at the bandits to try to knock them out of the train and like trying to get all the treasure.
This is the kids' version of Colt Express, right?
Yes, but it is nothing like Colt Express. It's just themed around the same thing.
Okay.
The game is a dexterity flicking game, whereas Colt Express is like some programming weird game that I don't like.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so Kids Express is fun. My kids like it a lot. And I think they played it like 6 times this year, which is more than a lot of the other games we've gotten. And we got a review copy of that. My favorite kids game, I think, might be, it's tough because I actually did a top 10 list, and 2 kids games made my top 10 list. You can watch it on YouTube. But I think the order that I had for that was like based on me wanting to play it more into it. But I think right now the order is kind of flip-flopped. So my favorite would be ROVE Junior, which is a solo kids game, puzzly game that's based on ROVE. It's a button-shy 18-card puzzle game, but ROVE Junior is like a simplified version of it, and I think it's a good game. I like ROVE, and then ROVE Junior was great, like just seeing my kid figure out the puzzly part of it.
Well, my game is a little bit of a cheat because I don't think I played any 2024 dedicated kids games.
Yeah.
But the game that I've picked is very kid-friendly and has cute artwork, so I'm counting it, and that is Duck and Cover. It is a card game where you have a grid of cards with numbers on them, and you are either shuffling the cards around in the grid or covering cards up with other cards, and you're trying not to score points, so you want to cover up the cards that have points on them. It is simple, but fun, and accommodates a lot of players all at the same time. I actually just got introduced to this at Dice Tower West, and I really, really liked it. So I actually want to buy a copy, like, now, if I can find one. So, yep, that's why I'm choosing it for my kids' game, even though it technically is not a kids' game. Duck and Cover. Next up, we are going to go with the most innovative game of 2024. My pick for this category is going to be Slay the Spire. So I have not gotten my own copy of Slay the Spire yet, but I have gotten a chance to play it. And I think I've talked about this on the podcast because you had talked about playing it and I wanted to, and I was nervous because I love the video game so much. And wow, they have taken pieces and parts from the video game and implemented them in a board game in a really interesting way. Some of that involves the card upgrade system where you are flipping cards over within a sleeve to upgrade them to their better side. There is also some stuff that's kind of spoilery that I don't really want to talk about in detail. But if you've played the video game, the board game also contains 3 acts, ... And I'll just leave it at that. And I think it's unique. It doesn't feel like a normal campaign game per se. It feels like the video game in a really unique way. So that is why I'm picking Slay the Spire for most innovative.
Yeah, I like Slay the Spire, but didn't quite fit into any of the categories for me. For my most innovative game, I picked 21 Hand Games, which is actually 21 games in one book. It's either called Hand Games 21 or 21 Hand Games, because like it's at handgames21.com, but like on BGG it's called 21 Hand Games. Anyway, Don Eskridge, the creator of The Resistance, made 21 different games that are just games that you can play with only your hands, like rock, paper, scissors, but they're not rock, paper, scissors. And so it's like a collection of all these different games. Some of them are simple, some of them are harder, and they're all different like categories of games too. There's like social deduction ones, there's 2-player ones, there's cooperative ones. I think it's innovative how you could just do that with just your hands and stuff. So
no components.
Yeah, no components, just your hands and sometimes your voice. Yeah, so yeah, 21 Hand Games, I think it's pretty innovative.
That does definitely fit the bill.
All right, speaking of innovative things, next category is the most unique theme. For me, I picked Corvids. That is themed around you are all crows, or like Corvids, crow family birds. And and you're like scavenging trash. And so you're like picking out cards from this pile of trash, and it's just like cards that are piled messily, and you're trying to like pick them and flip them over and stuff. I thought that was a neat theme.
It is a really neat theme, and it fits with the mechanics well, which makes it even better.
Yeah. So yeah, that was Corvids, which I got a review copy of. That was a unique theme.
My pick for unique theme comes from River Valley Glassworks. In this game, you are literally pulling glass out of a river to bring to your glass-making shop, which, A, is something I hadn't really seen before. We've got stained glass window games, but like actually pulling glass out of a river is a little bit unique. And I especially like the river moving mechanism within it too. So it just feels like, oh, look at these little tumbled pieces of glass that I'm getting from out of the river. Like if you're a person that likes to collect things, it kind of has that little bit of a feeling to it. It's a relatively light game, but I really like this game. I've played it a lot, and so I absolutely had to make sure it showed up on my list somewhere. So that is why it kind of got a little bit shoehorned into unique theme, I'll admit. But yeah, River Valley Glassworks, I really like it.
Cool.
Next up, we are going to be talking about our favorite cooperative game of 2024. Mine will be pretty quick because Ambi has already discussed it, and that is Wilmot's Warehouse. I also really enjoyed Wilmot's Warehouse, and it was just so much fun to play. We were laughing like crazy, and in a game where you're really having to focus and remember things, you would not expect that much fun, but it really truly is. So yeah, I had to put this down for my favorite co-op.
My favorite co-op is The Gang. This is a cooperative poker game. I think I mentioned it on the podcast and or YouTube videos before, but yeah, it's fun. You're playing Texas Hold'em, but then instead of betting, you're saying where you think your hand ranks among everyone else, and then you do that each round, and so you can see the history of everyone's ranks, and then you want to get right on the last round. And so you see like, oh, they changed at this point. They thought they got a better hand, and so you can kind of like figure out what people have. And yeah, I like it. It's one of those like limited communication cooperative games that I love. So
I was so bummed that I didn't get a chance to play this one at Dice Tower West because a lot of people were recommending this one to me. They were like, you have to play The Gang. Crystal, you used to be a poker player.
Yeah,
you have to play The Gang.
You know poker, yeah.
I know poker very well. And yeah, it was on my list of things to potentially check out, and it just didn't end up happening. So I will probably try and play The Gang at some point.
Yeah, it seems like it would be a good one to play with like poker players to introduce them to other board games too.
Yeah. It's funny though, because I have generally found poker players are kind of naturally board gamers already. Like that is like if you're already used to sitting at a table for hours on end playing poker, you can slide into board games real natural like.
Maybe, yeah. All right, next up is our favorite card game of 2024. And for me, that is Expressions, which is a cooperative deduction card game with limited communication again. So in Expressions, it's themed around like inside out moods or something, but that doesn't matter. You have different colors and numbers in your hand, and you give clues kind of like in The Crew, where you can say, you put your card down and say like, this is the highest number of this color that I have, or the lowest number, or the only number, something like that, right? Then people kind of figure out what's in your hand, and they're trying to guess the cards that are left in your hand, and you have to guess like more cards than the cards that have been discarded, which include like clues and stuff. It's a different type of deduction. I like deduction games, and then this one felt different than other deduction games I've played. I like always having different types of ways of giving clues and then different ways of thinking. And so, yeah, I liked Expressions.
Yeah, this one did not make my list, but I really enjoyed it, both in person and on Board Game Arena. I've played this one digitally and in person multiple times, and I really, really enjoy this game. My pick for card game will not come as a surprise if you listened to our most recent episode because it's Flip 7. I love it. It's great. It's a light card game. It's push your luck, which is something that I love in games, and it's super fun. I just talked about it recently, so I will not wax poetic, but it's a winner in my book. So yeah, my best card game, Flip 7. Our next category is Best Party Game of 2024, and my choice is kind of a Big Dill. Dill, and that is Dill, D-I-L-L, not deal, in kind of a Big Dill. It is a game where you only have to slightly bend the truth. You don't actually have to necessarily lie outright. So I think it makes that aspect of a lot of party games a lot more approachable, and also really funny because the types of things that you end up having to lie about in this game, you get a category and then you get given a range on a scale of how much you're supposed to be either truthful, you're supposed to either say you're much better at it, or be honest about how good you are at the thing, or say you're way worse at it than you actually are. So the category might be like fixing a copier, like in an office. And if it tells you that you should lie and say that you are way better at it than you are, then you basically have to tell everybody like why you're good at fixing copiers. And they might be like, well, she did work in an office. Like maybe the office manager was really lazy and she had to fix the copier. I don't know. Like you can draw on your own experiences to make it a lot easier to kind of fib a little bit. And it's fun in that regard. I love this game. It's a delight. And the theme is fun. It's very pickly. And there's lots of pickle artwork in the game too. So yeah, my favorite party game, kind of a Big Dill.
I should try that one.
It's fun. I really enjoy it.
My favorite party game is Things in Rings, which is a Venn diagram party game. You have like these string circles that make a Venn diagram, and then like one of them is word attribute, and then like material made of, and like other thing. I forget exactly what the three different things are, but basically you have cards that you play down, and one person knows what each thing is. So like one of the things will be like the word has to rhyme with something, or like the word has a pair of consonants that are the same, or something like that, or like the word has only one vowel, and then the thing is made out of wood. It would be like another part of the Venn diagram. And so you're placing down cards where you think they might go in the Venn diagram, and then the person who knows will be like, yes, that's right, or they move it. And so you're trying to get rid of all your cards. If you place it right, then you can keep going, and if you don't place it right, then you have to draw another one, kind of like Uno, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, so you're kind of like figuring out, kind of like induction type game, or like you're trying to figure out the rules based on how people have placed, and you see, but it's like an induction party game because you can kind of luck into winning too, which sometimes happens.
That was kind of my, like, I don't dislike the game, but that was my issue with it, is I would get things wrong and not know why. And I would get things right and not know why. And I was just like, I don't understand
I know.
what's happening right now.
Yeah, but it was funny because we would get things right and just be like, oh yeah, we totally got it.
Yeah, I knew that. I knew that went there.
It's like, oh, absolutely. Yeah.
No, this one was weirdly frustrating for me just because I was like, I really don't understand anything that's happening right now. And I have heard from multiple people that they learn very quickly that their friends do not know how to count syllables when they play this game.
Oh no.
Like there are people apparently who pronounce words differently, and therefore the number of syllables in a given word is apparently up for debate depending on who you are.
Yeah, when that came up, I was like, when I put the card down, I would pronounce the syllables out like da da. But yeah, so that's Things in Rings. All right, from party games, let's go straight to solo games. The opposite.
The opposite.
So my favorite solo game of 2024 was the Morrison Game Factory, which I actually played in 2023. I got a review copy and I talked about it on the podcast. This is a puzzly escape room type game without a timer from Post Curious. I play it solo, but you can play it cooperative, but I play a lot of these solo, and I really like Post Curious games. I've mentioned them a lot, and the story was really good on this one. I think when I mentioned it on the podcast, I said like it made me cry because I was very invested in the story. So I really enjoyed the Morrison Game Factory.
And I didn't really play a lot of dedicated solo games this past year, so I do not have a pick for this category. From solo games to two-player games, we're going to talk about our favorite two-player games from last year, and my pick is, I don't know about you, Ambi, but there have been a lot of duel games, D-U-E-L games coming out the past few years. Basically, if a game has been popular at some point in the past, you better believe a duel version of it for two people has come out in the past few years. A Living Forest duel, Azul duel, which is just fun to say. But my favorite from 2024 of two-player games is actually King of Tokyo Duel, which I was very curious about because I was like, King of Tokyo is this epic mash of lots of monsters fighting for control over Tokyo. How how in the world do they make that a 2-player game? And they really did. It's neat because there are multiple different ways that you can win, similar to other 2-player games like Seven Wonders Duel, for instance. Like there's multiple tracks that you can get to your side to win the game, or you can just destroy the other monster and win the game that way as well. But it's still got dice rolling just like regular King of Tokyo. It still has that King of Tokyo feel, but it's got that push and pull of a classic duel game. And I really enjoyed it. It kind of surprised me. I will admit, King of Tokyo, I loved, and then I didn't play it for a long time, and then I started playing it again, and it's a good game. Like, for what it is, that push your luck, Yahtzee style dice rolling, just fun, chaotic game, I still really like it. And I guess now if I want to play with 2 people, I can. So that's King of Tokyo Duel.
Cool. Yeah, I haven't played any of the duel games because I actually don't play that many 2-player games anymore. Since having kids, we kind of stopped playing 2-player as much. Although we might start again because we realized at Dice Tower West, we played like a game with one of the kids like helping Toby in his lap. And I'm like, oh, maybe we could do that with more.
Yeah.
But yeah, we haven't done that yet. But anyways.
You got your special helpers.
Yeah. My pick for best 2-player game is A Message from the Stars, which is actually a 2 to 8 player game. I played a demo of this at Dice Tower West with Toby and a few other people. We played a partial demo because then we left and like had to check on our kids. But then we played again that night, just us 2. And I think I like it at 2-player because this is a cooperative or team. I guess it could be 4 players with teams, but cooperative deduction game. But like when you play with more people on a team, there's 2 sides. There's the alien and the scientists, and then like the scientists are doing deduction and like crossing out things on their board and trying to figure out the letters that the aliens are giving clues for. And it's like a math logic problem, but like having more people for that doesn't really help because you're just all have the same board crossing out the same things based on the same clues. So it's like mostly a 2-player game there. It also has like a mix with code names type thing with giving word clues and trying to guess the words. But yeah, so I think it worked well as a 2-player game. Yeah, and I don't know if I would play it with more people. And I also might not play it ever again because it has dry erase and I didn't like the dry erase. So
so it's your favorite that you'll never touch ever again.
Yeah, exactly. But that's A Message from the Stars.
I love dry erase. So now you're making me want to play it. So don't worry, you love it and I'll continue playing it on your behalf.
Yeah, okay. All right, now our next category is our best strategy game of 2024. I don't actually play that many of those anymore, but I did get to play River of Gold this year, and I enjoyed it, so that's my pick. Actually, my friend works for the publisher of River of Gold, so we played her copy. But yeah, it's a strategy game. It's a Euro game. You roll a die, and like that determines what you can do with your actions. You can either move one of your ships down this River of Gold, or you can like build buildings onto the spaces on the river, or you can play a card down if you have the resources. But like when you land on spaces with your ship, you get the resources of that spaces like has 4 corners and you get those resources. But if someone has a building on one of those corners, they also get some bonus resource or something. So it has like a monopoly landing on people's properties and they get stuff, but you don't have to pay them. You get stuff too. So it's like cooperative monopoly, but it's still a competitive game. But yeah, like you're building up, you're getting points in lots of different ways and you're trying to like go up certain tracks because you get more points if you have like more blue buildings or something. There's also like certain things you're going for and trying to get first. So lots of different things you're trying to do. And the board looks really pretty because it has gold on it. So that's River of Gold, my favorite strategy game of 2024.
So moving from ships on the water to spaceships, my favorite strategy game of 2024 was Arcs. And that's spelled ARCS. Arcs was, everybody was like, this is the area control game with trick-taking in it. And while admittedly the trick-taking aspect of the game is a pretty small part of it, it is what drew me in originally, and the game itself is quite fun. Area control games are not something I tend to gravitate toward, and I've played this one now a couple of times, and it is just a really interesting, solid game. You know, leader games, their games are always very unique in comparison to a lot of other publishers, and the games of theirs that I have played I tend to like, but don't play often, and Arcs is one that I could see myself playing a little bit more often than some of the others, just because it's not asymmetrical for one thing, which is helpful, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. I know I talked about it on the podcast after I played it the first time. It's a good one. Next up, I'm going to do my favorite trick-taking game of 2024, This is a difficult category for me because my buddy Greg, shout out to Greg, hi Greg, has been kind of on a trick-taking like extravaganza the past couple of years. And so I've played a lot of different trick-taking games and it was really difficult to pick just one. What's funny is I'm picking one that I'm not even sure qualifies. So technically the second edition of this game came out in 2024. The first edition came out in 2023. So I don't know if it counts. Right? That's not a big gap. I don't know. But I am going to give the award to Rebel Princess, second edition. Rebel Princess is actually kind of loosely based on the classic trick-taking game Hearts, where you are specifically trying to avoid taking points. And the theme of the game is everybody is a princess, but you're a rebel princess, and you do not want a suitor. You do not want the boys, because boys are stupid and stinky, and you do not want them. And so the suit that is the suitors, you want none of them. You do not want those cards. And the suit that is animals, one of the cards in the animal suit is the Frog Prince. And he is basically like the Queen of Spades in Hearts, where he's worth a lot of bad points. You do not want that Frog Prince either. Then the princesses also have special powers that trigger, and each round there's a special condition that happens that is randomly drawn before the game. I freaking loved this. This is why I'm choosing it, even though it kind of is a 2023 game. Oh my gosh. This one is so fun. The theme is a delight. The gameplay is really awesome. The special powers that the princesses get are all unique and really change up things. Like, you'll think you're about to not take a trick, and then all of a sudden somebody's giving you suitors because they use their power. But it's in a good way. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So yeah, Rebel Princess second edition gets the award for me for best trick taker.
And I do not have any in this category because I did not play any trick-taking games that came out in 2024. But the next category is biggest surprise. I put Spotlight, which is a children's game I actually got a review copy of. And this was surprising to me, like, in the way that it worked, like the components wise. Because it's a game where you have like this cardboard flashlight and you're putting it on these pictures and you're trying to find like a Where's Waldo, like hidden picture type thing. And you're trying to cooperatively find all of the images of one type of thing and count how many there are. But like there's this big picture, a busy picture, and you're putting the cardboard spotlight there and then it lights it up. And so it's all dark except for where the light is. And I was looking at videos and I didn't know how it worked. And then when I got my copy, I was like, oh, this is how it works. So that was like my surprise. And my kids were also surprised. They're like, oh, this is a magic flashlight. This is cooler than a real flashlight. And it's just like a cardboard thing with a white spot. I'm going to spoil the surprise, I guess, but it's a transparency, and the transparency has the picture on it on top of a black cardstock. And so you put the white spotlight thing in between the transparency and the black. And so like the transparency has the image printed on it. And so you can see that part that's over the white. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
That sounds neat. And kids games are perfect for gimmicks, right?
I know.
Like, put all the gimmicks in the kids games because kids like them, adults like them. Like it just makes them more fun.
So yeah, that was my biggest surprise in how it worked.
My biggest surprise for 2024, you're going to get to hear more about here in a minute, but it is Bomb Busters. I got to play this one. Ambi had been talking it up, and I actually played it a lot at Dice Tower West. Yeah. Maybe that's why I didn't get to play the gang, is because I was too busy playing Bomb Busters over and over and over on multiple days. Yeah, it's just as good as Ambi said it was. It's super fun, and the reason I'm considering it my biggest surprise is I'm not surprised that I liked it. I'm surprised at how well it works. Like, there's 66 missions in the box, and they're all like I haven't played all of them yet. I'm not that.
How far did you get?
I replayed some missions multiple times because I was teaching new people because I kept bringing it back. So we didn't go beyond mission 9 or 10 in total, I don't think. But it surprised me in how well it works and how different it feels than other cooperative games of the same kind of type. Like, it doesn't feel like other games that are like it to me. And I don't know, it feels special. It feels like something unique. It's just solid. It's really, really good. And I guess that shouldn't be surprising considering how much Ambi talked it up, but it's still beyond that also surprised me. So that I'm trying to say it's so good, y'all. Go play Bomb Busters for real. Next up is our favorite new to us game for 2024. And for those of you who are unaware what that means, this means a game that did not release in 2024 by any means. It released sometime other than 2024, but we played it for the first time in 2024, and we want to give it a nod. So my pick for that category is Aquatica. Aquatica actually came out in 2019. I imagine I probably would have played this at some point if the pandemic hadn't happened. Like, I bet, if my weekly game group had continued, that maybe somebody would have brought it to game night and I would have gotten to try it. But as a result of everything, I just had never played it. I'd never gotten a chance to. And I'd heard people talking about Aquatica now for years. Like, a lot of people like Aquatica. And I don't know, I'd never played it. And someone brought it out at Dice Tower West. And it kind of blew my mind with how good it is, because it takes 30 minutes to play and absolutely does not feel like a 30-minute game. It feels like a much weightier or more significant game than the time it takes to play it. And there's a lot of little things going on in it that are really satisfying. Like, as you achieve things within the game, you have to give up tokens that are giving you special abilities. So the better you're doing, the more it's weakening you, kind of. And it's so satisfying. I've been told that I have to get the expansion now as well. I already own the game. Thank you, Panda Angel, for buying it for me, because you're a delight and I love you. She saw how much I loved it and bought it for me as a thank you for staying with me during Dice Tower West. So yeah, I already own it and it's great. I now know why everybody likes Aquatica.
Cool. My pick for this came out in 2023, but it's kind of like a cheat because it came out in the US in 2024. But because on BGG it says 2023, I wouldn't be able to use it for the Blitzies. So this is Infiltrators.
You're right. We do follow the rules very closely here.
It's another cooperative deduction card game, but it has a different feel than Expressions. It has a different way of deduction, and they both are good. So Infiltrators, in that one, the theme is more like spy-based. You're infiltrating stuff, and it has missions. So it has different missions with different setups, kind of like the Crew. But the deduction is you have numbered colored cards. Each person can pick up one card, and that's the card they're giving clues for, and everyone else can guess it. But you give a clue down, and the clue is a number colored card, and you say it's either matches your card or does not match. And so if the color matches or the number is a multiple or divisor of it, like a 2 would match with a 4, 6, 8, 10, or 12, or 14. Does it go to 15? I forget. And a blue would match with all blues. And then if it doesn't match, then you eventually see oh, so this can be a 2 or a 4, and it has to be blue or something. And so people figure it out. It has all the numbers on there that match with each card, so you don't have to do mental math the whole time. But yeah, that was an interesting way of deduction too, that's different than other deduction games. And so yeah, I like deduction card games. Infiltrators is good, and it's on BGG. It's 2023, so yeah. All right, so now we're to our favorite
drum roll, please.
Yeah, our best overall game of 2024, which for me is no surprise, Bomb Busters, which I've already mentioned a lot on the podcast.
Shocked.
Yeah, I love this game. It's a cooperative deduction game. It has kind of a Hanabi feel to me, but has missions, and each mission is different. And so, yeah, it's more themed than Hanabi.
I think I might maybe just Hanabi'd myself out at some point in the past because I just...
Yeah, I played Hanabi a lot. And I still do like it when I play it. But yeah, this one, because it has the different missions each time, it's harder to bomb busters yourself out, I think. until you get to the end. I don't know. I haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah.
We've played 23 missions. So Bomb Busters, my favorite game of 2024.
Nice. I struggled to pick my favorite game of 2024 because the game I'm choosing, it doesn't feel that piece of my brain that is that old school, that older, the judgy gamer that used to be, in my head that's this isn't good enough to be your best game of the year kind of mentality. And obviously that's silly. The more I thought about it, every time I play this game, I absolutely adore it and I want to play it more. I want to play it again and again and again and again. And that is Draft and Write Records. I could have put this down in a number of different categories. In Draft and Write Records, you are drafting cards around the table and basically you're setting up your band. You pick a band name, you can can go on tour, you can make albums, you have to add new members to your band, and you're trying to get synergies and harmonies between all the things. It is very combo-tastic in the way that like Gon's Shown Clever was, but this has a theme, and the theme works, and it feels good and satisfying. It feels a little different every time I play it based on what cards I'm getting, and so I just adore it. And yeah, I am not going to be judgy gamery in my head. I'm going to say that I love Draft and Write Records, and therefore it is my number one game of 2024. So in last year's Blitzy Awards, we talked about what we were looking forward to in 2024, and we wanted to revisit those briefly to let you know what happened with those. And one of mine was Slay the Spire, so clearly that went well. Another of mine was Iron Forest, the ice cool sequel of sorts, which I believe has finally just now in 2025 shipped to Kickstarter backers, but it doesn't seem like it's getting a lot of buzz, or I'm not hearing about it. So I'm probably just gonna maybe not worry about that. And if I get to play it at some point, maybe, but I've kind of lost my interest. But I have not lost my interest in 1001 Odysseys. I backed the campaign in 2019 on Kickstarter, and I love Chris and Asmodee Games, and I know that they are still actively working on it as we speak. They update the Kickstarter regularly. It has just taken a lot longer than they expected. So maybe, just maybe, 2025 will be the year, because I've had this game on my looking forward to list for the Blitzies now for a lot of years.
Yeah, those ones were from 2023, actually. Like, all those were from 2023. I think your
all
list.
of them?
Yeah, none of them released in 2023. So you were looking forward to them in 2024 again, because you had more things that you were looking forward to in 2024.
Oh shoot, you're right. There were.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Queen's Dilemma got delayed. That one hasn't come out yet. I still haven't played Clank Legacy 1, so I definitely haven't played Clank Legacy 2. And I am glad that the retheme, the American version of Surfasaurus Max did come out, even if the theme is stupid. I do not like that combo is just about fruit, because surfing T-Rexes is so much better, and this is a hill I will die on, so. But it is out now. And yeah, Kabanga, I don't know if that one made it to the States. I assume it did, but I haven't seen it. And then Ito did also get published in the States, and Ito is great.
Yeah, I played that. I like it.
Yeah, that one, honestly, that one was almost my best cooperative game. That one was like real close. I really like Ito.
Oh yeah, it wasn't on my list because it doesn't say 2024 on PGG. So it didn't get into my list of games that came out in 2024. Yeah, so what I was looking forward to in 2024 was That Escalated Quickly and War Story Occupied France. They both came out, I think. I haven't played either of them though, but I do want to play them. I've heard That Escalated Quickly is similar to Ito, but like I do want to try it too because I like Ito and I think I would like it. And then War Story Occupied France, I've heard good things about that. So like it makes me want to play it more. And then I was looking back at my 2023 looking forward to as well, because like I hadn't played any of those and I still haven't played any of those. But one of them was Disney animated and I did just buy that, so I might play it in the future.
I imagine that will be coming soon then.
Yeah. And then for what we're looking forward to in 2025, I have a few things. I was looking at what games I've put on my want to playlist. So there's Lord of the Rings Fate of the Fellowship, which is the pandemic themed around Lord of the Rings, and I like Lord of the Rings, so I'm excited. Then there's...
See, and that could have been your trick-taking game for this year if you had played the Lord of the Rings trick-taking game that came out.
Oh, I have played that. Oh. I guess that could be. Whoops. Did I just like miss that was a trick-taking game? Maybe. Or... It did not show up on my list. Why did it not show on my list? I don't know. So the problem is I played it before it had a name in BGG, so it might not be in my like BG stats correctly as that. But yeah, okay. Retroactively, that's my favorite trick-taking game.
I should have mentioned it earlier. I was like, because I thought you played it, but I couldn't remember.
But yeah, also looking forward to in 2025 is Micro Macro Kids, which is a kids version of Micro Macro, which I like. And kids version will probably have less murder and adultery and stuff.
It does.
Yeah.
If the kids version has more murder in it, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, but my kids like looking at the micro macro like thing and pointing out things, and they're like, "Oh, look, they have X's in their eyes and stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah, like I don't know if we should follow this case," but yeah, the kids one they would probably like. And then there's also a micro macro jigsaw puzzle, which I'm excited about because I like jigsaw puzzles. It looks hard though because it's a busy puzzle with no color. And then another one is Severton, which I don't know much about. Let me look it up. But what I do know is that it's by Vlada Chvátil, and he hasn't made a game since like Codenames, and he is like my favorite designer.
So you'll basically take anything at this point.
Yeah. It says it's an old school cooperative game. So I like cooperative games.
Ooh.
So I'm
Consider
excited.
me interested as well then.
Yeah, and then the last one is Flickering Stars, which is by Matt Leacock. So this is a dexterity game that I think this is a game that I had played the prototype of back in like 2017 because I went to a local convention where Matt Leacock is in the Bay Area. So I went to a local convention and he had this prototype of a dexterity like team flicking game with a spaceship, and it wasn't named then. But like when I saw that Flickering Stars, I saw that and I was like, wait, is that the game that we played? I think it is. And I remember liking it. So yeah, it's like you flick ships across the table and it's like a team flicking game, I think. So I'm excited for that.
Well, I already mentioned 1001 Odysseys, which I am still looking forward to. And then there aren't a ton of 2025 releases that I'm trying to temper expectations for myself this year based on past years. But there is a game coming from the op that is a party game that looks super fun. And it's called How Many What? Which is a fun name. It's a measurement-based game where you have to guess how many of a certain thing equal another thing. So I think I saw in the example,
okay.
it's like, how many peacock feathers tall is a giraffe? Or,
Okay.
yeah, how many bowling balls does an elephant weigh? I think it even said in the description, for people who will avoid the metric system at all costs. Then everyone answers, and then you get to show all the answers. And I think similarly to Wits and Wagers, I think you're going to get to like pick which answer you think is closest. So it's one of those games where you do not need to know anything. You can answer whatever and then potentially get points, I think, by voting on other people's answers. And it just sounds like good, silly fun. So assuming that there's a lot of prompts in the box, which the op is usually pretty good at, I think that's going to be a good one. That is it for this year's Blitzy Awards. Tell us what we got right and what we got wrong by hitting us up on social media or in the Blitz Discord. And tell us what your favorite game of 2024 was, especially if it's one we didn't mention today.
And we didn't get anything wrong because these are our favorites.
That's true.
I guess except me forgetting Lord of the Rings trick-taking game. That was the thing I got wrong. And that's it for this week's Board Game Blitz. Visit our website, boardgameblitz.com, for more content and links. This episode was sponsored by Grey Fox Games. There's still time to get your very own copy of the 10th anniversary edition of Champions of Midgard with all the bells and whistles. Head to Kickstarter and tell them Board Game Blitz sent you. And don't forget that Blitzketeers like you get 10% off your entire cart, including exclusives, when you shop at greyfoxgames.com and enter the code BLITZ10 at checkout. Join the Blitzketeer community on Discord for game nights, discussions, and more by following the link in the show notes. Support the show by leaving us a rating and a review on your podcast provider. And if you like us a lot and want to support us monetarily and get some cool perks, check out our Ko-fi at ko-fi.com/boardgameblitz today. Our theme song was composed by Andrew Morrow. Until next time, 'cause you ain't gonna tell me gaming's in my nature, so play it like a player, 'cause baby, we're board gamers. Bye everyone.
Bye!
All right, next category is I need to pick a category. Okay.
I had a tough pick, and I actually ended up. I think I may have. Do I want to change my mind? I think I want to change my mind.